Even men at the top of their game find themselves wanting more from life. Whether it's more meaning, unshakable confidence, a bigger impact, more money, deeper love, a hotter sex life, or a powerful legacy. Find out how good your life can be on this episode of Man Alive. Also, if you're not satisfied with your love or sex life, I want you to know that I get how painful it is. Sometimes it's hard to know what to do to change things up and get the results you want. But having spent 20 years as a dating and relationship coach, supporting thousands of men to have the relationships and sex they want, I know it's possible for you when you get the right kind of support. As a woman coach, I bring a unique advantage by helping you understand how women think and feel and why they say and do things that can be so frustrating for you. My specialty is being able to tell within minutes why you're losing attraction, trust, or respect from women, and how to turn that around. Even though you've likely been raised to think you should be a man who doesn't need any help, it just doesn't work that way because none of us were handed a guide to love or sex. So every month by application, I open my calendar to a few men for consultations. Men are amazed to walk away from these sessions feeling more confident in and out of the bedroom. Coaching isn't for everyone. I work with men who are willing to be honest about their role in the situations they've created. So if you're still playing the blame game, this isn't for you. But if you're ready to take action and have a love and sex life you feel great about, book a time to meet with me. Go to shanajamescoaching.com/consult and fill out the form to tell me more about you so we can set something up. That's shanajamescoaching.com/consult. Enjoy today's podcast.
Welcome to tonight's Man Alive call. I am so excited to be here tonight. I'm your host, Shana James. You are in for an incredible treat tonight. We have one of my favorite teachers, Alison Armstrong, and the topic we're covering, owning your sexual needs and restoring your sexual honor, is so dear to my heart because I've worked with so many men on this topic, and I feel really personally moved by how much pain and struggle there is with this, and also the beauty of what can come out of that pain and struggle and how much you can have the passion and love and sex that you desire and I believe you deserve. So this is not about lines or games or rules that you have to follow. This is not about becoming a man, the man you think you should be that women want. This is really about letting go of whatever fear and shame and compromise that's been driving you, and instead stepping into your power, into having choice and feeling confident and capable of creating what you want with women and with the women you want. So having supported close to 1,000 men over the past decade all around the world and letting go of the shoulds and the have-tos and the weight and the pressure and holding up false fronts to really relax and enjoy themselves. I know and we know that this is possible, and this is possible and can happen for you too. And that's what we're here to help you create. So whether you've been dating and unsatisfied for a while now, or you're newly dating and unsure of the terrain, it's been a while, or you're overall in some way just struggling to feel relaxed with women, or you're having great dates even, but not with the women you really want, or you're having relationships and sex, but not feeling satisfied or fulfilled in some way. Wherever you are, these experts have incredible wisdom for you. And however challenging it's been for you, the men I've been working with over the past decade, whether they're just starting on this journey or have done 20 years of therapy or are therapists themselves, all these men have made incredible shifts in their love lives and stepping into a new kind of closeness and passion with women that is blowing their minds. And one of my missions really is to erase the shame and struggle that every man at some point goes through, and every woman as well. That love is actually an amazing mirror for us to grow and stretch and become more whole when we allow it to do that. And let's just dive into the meat of tonight's call. I don't want to waste any more time. And I want to introduce to you tonight our expert, Alison Armstrong. Alison, before I do your bio, Alison, I want to give a personal intro of the fact that I have such admiration for your teachings and, you being a leading edge teacher of man-woman dynamics and really unraveling the mysteries of why we have such a hard time connecting with each other. And I have personally taken your workshops. I brought my mom to your workshop. And many of the women and men who've, been to my workshop have also been to yours and have raved about it. And what they've learned, and I've really seen people have incredible shifts based on the understandings that you're teaching. And it's like you have been creating an owner's manual or an owner's guide or whatever, for relationships and for us to date and have love that actually works, because there is so much struggle out there these days. So thank you so much for being here tonight. I feel really blessed to have you here.
You're welcome. I'm really excited to be a part of this.
Good. So Alison is a sought-after speaker, I would say, in the areas of gender differences, well-being, empowerment, sexuality, and relationships. She teaches workshops for men and women. She's the author of The Queen's Code and the creator of the Queen's Code Workshop series, plus a host of other products and programs designed to really foster, like I was saying, understanding and further partnership between men and women. And Alison really looks through the lens of, what if no one is misbehaving? Right? What if no one is misbehaving, including you? And she explores the good reasons behind the behavior of men and women, such as the fundamental differences in the ways we think, we act, we communicate, and really offers simple partnership-based solutions to, to improve our communication and intimacy by first honoring ourselves and then honoring others. And Alison is well known for her insight, her sense of humor, and her ability to really articulate the human experience and the predicament of each gender. So again, Alison, thank you so much for being here. And tonight our topic is owning your sexual needs and restoring your sexual honor. Anything you want to say as we dive into this incredible topic? I was really curious, how you came to this and whether this is a new topic or something that's been brewing for a long time.
Well, it's interesting, Shana, because it's both. And that's what amazes me about male sexuality. When I started studying men in 1991, it was one of the first things that showed up. Like, if you're going to understand a man, you have to understand sex. And men's relationship to sex and the relationship of testosterone to sex and an individual man's relationship to sex. And I remember in the beginning, one of the things that I was really stunned by, which seems silly now, was, like many women, I had the assumption that men were cool with sex. Do you know? Like, it was always great. They always wanted it. When they got it, it was awesome. Like, no damage. There was this assumption, like, women get really damaged by sex. They're all messed up, right? They have
and
all
men
this
don't.
self-consciousness, right? And I also had this this idea that was definitely an imprint from being a teenager, that I thought men knew how to do it. Since they were the ones that were pestering for sex, that they understood sex, that they knew what to do, they knew what was going on, and like that as a woman I was just supposed to follow, right?
Yeah.
I was the clueless one. I was supposed to follow. And it wasn't until I actually was educating my son about women's sexuality and the look on his face as I gave him I drew a picture of a woman's body and showed him all the erogenous zones in a woman's body.
I love that. I love that you did that.
Yes. Starting with her ear. Do you know? Like, he's like, what am I supposed to do to your ear? I'm like, it's what you say, honey. It's all about what you say. And then I drew a picture of a woman's crotch and like showed him where everything was and told him all the different sizes things could be and how to find things.
Oh my God, I want that picture from my son. He's getting older.
My son took it with him, so I don't have it. But this is in Starbucks, by the way.
Oh my God, amazing. If every man had a mother like you, I mean, that's the thing too. I think for so many of the men I've worked with, it's been a relief to realize, like, that even men don't necessarily know that they're not the only ones. You know, have you experienced that?
Right.
That men come in thinking, oh, I'm the only one. I know less about sex than other men. I never got taught and other men did. You know, that whole shame and secrecy.
Yeah, they assume that they're the only one instead of that's actually the norm, that nobody told them anything. Yeah. And, you know, or even as boys, their first nocturnal emissions, thinking they're dying. Yeah. Nobody told them this was going to happen, and they think they're dying. So it's really that was what showed up in the beginning, was just how many misconceptions I had and that other women have about, you know, men being masterful in this area, and that if they're not these great lovers, it's because they don't want to be, because they don't care enough about you, like that they're just doing a crappy job at it because they're a jerk, instead of you know, what I've you know, told men and women, every woman's body has to be learned. You know, this is the general layout, and then these are all the things you got to find out in order to be good at this. And
and then you have to overcome the shame of not knowing, right? That's the other thing that I work with women too, is that there is that shameful piece for men of, if I'm not good at this, there's something wrong with me. So I have to admit that I may not be good at this. I don't know what I'm doing before I can actually learn about it.
Well, you hit on one of my kind of words that I get wound up about. Because, and if you'll indulge me, I use the word shame in a really specific way, and as it relates to, I distinguish between shame and embarrassment. And embarrassment is really a mental thing. You know, that to be found inadequate is embarrassing, right? And shame is actually one of the most intense human emotions there is, and it's part of, okay, so if I may, I look at human beings as the duality of human animal and human spirit. And that's not unusual. You find it in like almost every scripture. You know, there's this way of talking about human beings. What's a little unusual about what I'm after is, instead of trying to overcome human instinct, how can we harness human instinct? Yeah. And elevate the expression of a human instinct, because it takes enormous effort to overcome instincts, because it has life force itself in it. So so if we can understand the difference between human instinct and how compelling it is, and human spirit, which is the domain of consciousness and choice, and we can create a partnership actually between ourselves and our instincts. And in our bodies, that duality is present in our bodies. We actually have two different nervous systems. And shame is an emotion of human spirit. And shame is, it happens in our gut, right, which has been shown to have as many neurotransmitters as our brain. And it's the most horrible feeling a human being can endure. And what we've discovered is that the effect of when a man feels shame, what's happened is he's not living up to his own standards, his own values as a man. What he says he's all about, he failed at. And that's when he feels shame. And And it has this terrible effect of actually disconnecting men from themselves.
Yeah.
They actually, this emotion of human spirit disconnects them from human spirit. And they feel lost. They feel alienated. And unfortunately, because our society doesn't understand shame, the tendency, I know we ended up in the deep end of the pool all of a sudden.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry about that.
That's good. This is good.
Because I think men are mostly really embarrassed about what they don't know about sex, right?
Yeah.
And they feel like they can't win at it because they haven't been given the right information. And that's really different from the shame that they feel when they don't operate to their own standards of honor in the area of sex, right? And so there's a really different effect. And I can, pull out of the deep end of the pool right now, and we can go back to it.
I know. I think we can keep going back and forth.
We can just keep going back and forth. Well, what I'm excited about is in developing our course for men, which is called A Hero's Challenge, Being an Extraordinary Man, in partnering with two extraordinary men in developing this course, that's when I discovered through them how shame is for a man and what it does to a man. And we developed a process to help men restore their honor, actually using shame to restore themselves. And because people don't, yes,
I was just
yes,
going to
you
say
actually,
I love that because then it's not like there's not the embarrassment or the shame about the shame, and which is a dead end, right? If we get stuck in that you're actually giving men a way to say, okay, here's how you can transform this into, like you said, restoring their power and then actually having what they want.
Yes, because the assumption is when a man feels shame, okay, I have to put in another piece here. So men and masculinity, so this shows up in women as well. But one characteristic of testosterone is playing to win. And if ever you think a man isn't playing to win, you've misidentified the game.
That's something I love too about your teachings, right? Where if you're thinking, God, it's even hard to wrap my head around it right now. But I love how you do that. You just unravel things like, if you're thinking in this way, then you're not actually seeing who's in front of you, right? Or this piece, for you listening around actually understanding your own psyche, your own hormones, your own all of this. And the impact of shame and embarrassment and how to actually use it and work with it, I think, Alison, is really your expertise.
Well, yeah, and that's what we discovered. So if you think of someone being put together in such a way that they're always about winning, they're always about succeeding, and then shame is the emotion that they feel when they have failed in the biggest possible way. Okay, so shame is the biggest failure, when they failed to be themselves. Right? And so what they'll do is in any area where they have shame, they'll avoid it. They'll head away from that area. They never want to go back there. Yeah. Because it was the area of their biggest failure. And what this sets up is actually avoiding shame, instead of shame can actually be the guide to get back to the light. Yeah. So later on when we talk about the process to recover yourself, you actually go into the shame.
Yes. So so I want to keep taking this into the deep end and then touching back into, I wouldn't call it the shallow end, but like the concrete experience. So maybe we can I want to talk about the ways that you say that men go without the sex they need because they don't fully understand it, right? They don't fully understand why they need it, or, how shame and embarrassment come into play. Because I really want for you, the listener, to have this, help you get what it is that you want and need, instead of, like you're saying, Alison, running the other way, based in this shame and embarrassment.
Yeah. Well, it's great, and I'm actually glad that we went here first, or I went here first, because as we talk about why men need sex, it can activate shame that men have in the area and have them feel hopeless about the conversation. So gentlemen, I want you all to know that as we're talking about this, anything that comes to mind, any area having to do with sex and sexuality, where this activates that feeling in the pit of your stomach of shame, which will show up because of thinking that you did not behave honorably. And that's the thing to know about shame. Only honorable people feel shame. So men think that when they feel shame, it's because they're dishonorable. No, they dishonored themselves in that moment, but they only feel shame because they have honor. Yeah. And so if you just want to make a note, anything that you're like, oh man, yes, I didn't behave well, I'm not proud of myself in that area. I didn't handle that according to my standards. That wasn't in integrity for me. I wasn't honorable in that situation. If you just jot down a little note about it, whether it's the person's name or the circumstance, and just know that we're going to give you a process to use that to restore yourself so that you can completely own what you need and represent yourself in a way that will be more effective and successful.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And one of the things that's really striking me, too, is that, you and I are two women who love men, right? And that we want you who's listening to have an amazing sex life, an amazing intimacy, and the kind of connection and love that feeds your heart, your body, your soul, and all of it. And that, I think, can be really healing, too. To hear from us as women. I hope that this gets in, as you're listening, that all of the ways that you've been blamed or shamed or accused of that wanting sex is a bad thing, or that needing sex is a bad thing, that we're really here to say to you, you are not wrong or bad, and this is a natural part of life, and this makes sense. And and that we are really holding that with you.
Yeah. So you asked the question about men needing sex, right? Why they need sex and what they need it for. And the first thing I want to say is that men would never talk about this. So they may be surprised that we're talking about it.
That we're talking about this.
Because to men, the benefits of sex are obvious. And another part of being masculine, and I'm sure you've heard it, is men will say there's no point in stating the obvious. So masculine causes the conservation of energy, an acute awareness of spending energy. And so to them, it's a waste of energy to state the obvious. And so they don't talk about why they need sex. Every man just looks at every other man and, need sex, duh.
Like a grunt, know it.
Of course, right? Or when I could, in the beginning when I was reaching to have men express themselves, they just would look at me and they're like, it's one of the 4 food groups. Right? And so my wanting to elaborate about why men need sex isn't because men don't know it, and it isn't because I need you to know that I know. It's because I want to give you men the words with which to communicate to women why you need sex, because women are clueless about why men need sex. And
I
so
love
so it's really important in order to ask effectively for the sex that you need and that you want, to be able to articulate what sex provides for you. Because that's what motivates a woman to provide sex, instead of just going from whether or not she feels like it at the moment. Right? And there's so
yeah.
yeah. So it's, I mean, my libido, just to be personal, I'm 54 years old. I'm 2 years past menopause. My libido, I think it was like a year ago that I was horny. And it was such a strange feeling. It took me a half a day to figure out what that feeling was.
What it was.
Seriously, I feel weird. And it took me like a whole half a day to finally go, oh my gosh, I'm horny. Because it had been at least a year since I'd been horny. And unfortunately, we live in a culture that's all about, do you want to have sex? I want to have sex. Do you want to have sex? And then based on that answer, if you don't have two yeses, sex doesn't happen. And I am a proponent that couples need to have more sex than they want to have. And we need to stop engaging in sex from a do I want to, do I want to mentality. We need to engage in it from, but what would it provide? What would be the result of having sex? Because the hardest part of sex is getting started, especially in a long-term relationship, right? And because you don't have all that sexual tension from the distance and the unknowingness and the fear and all that stuff, right? And so, what I recommend for couples is you just be committed to having sex, and then you just begin, and then you do what turns the other person on after you've already committed to having sex. And, we have a much longer conversation about that in our Celebrating Partnership or CD or in the Queen's Code book. But so the whole point of talking about why men need sex is so that they can tell other women this.
I love that. And I love what you said, so that they can ask effectively. And for me, what that goes back to is, when I work with men and we dissolve, I mean, you and I think, in some ways have a slightly different version of shame, but we can, I think, use shame and embarrassment, as for this. But, as men dissolve the shame or embarrassment, or then there isn't as much of a defense or a tightening around asking for this thing, or that they can have that kind of communication that gets that gets you, as you're listening, that gets you what you want, as opposed to needing to have a fight or needing to defend or state somehow why this is so important to you. I love what you're bringing is that as there is a deeper knowing and a deeper understanding, there is a way to communicate and to ask effectively. And what you also bring is understanding of the women's psyche. And I'm hearing that come in too, that the effective part is understanding how women work as well.
Yes, definitely. And it's so funny. I knew it would be like this talking to you, because the other thing that affects men's ability to ask for sex effectively is that they will only ask for what they think they deserve. And so there's this, and it sets up this very not good dynamic, because they have their own standards for why they deserve sex. And if they feel like they've done what causes them to deserve sex, then how they'll be about sex is, you owe me. You look at everything I did. You should have sex with me, which is not really enrolling. It does not cause a woman to want to have sex, right? And if they haven't done what they think would have them deserve sex, even though they need sex, they won't ask for it.
Interesting.
Yeah. So again, I want to get off the deserving train as well. That deserving is all about the past. What have you done in the past? And the impact of sex is who you'll be in the future.
Uh-huh.
The whole reason to have sex is because of who you'll be after you have sex.
Right. Well, and can we just either dissolving the deserving or just getting that you innately do deserve. Either way, right? Taking that out of the picture, that there has to be something done to actually get to have what you want, or you have to live up to something to actually get what you want.
Yeah, well, in A Hero's Challenge, we transform men's relationship to deserving because it's just fraught with peril. And the way that men calculate what they deserve, it's another thing that women really don't understand about men. That how they calculate what they deserve, it's a lifetime equation. And they take all the good they've ever done and subtract all the harm that they're ashamed of, and meaning they've never forgiven themselves, and the end result of that is how much they deserve. And through this equation, you can get megalomaniacs who think they deserve everything because, look what they did. They saved the world. They're a politician and they deserve everything. But mostly you get most men who don't think they deserve enough of what they need to actually be as great as they could be if they got it. So that's why we always want to transform the deserving conversation, that it stops being the issue, that deserving is a non-issue.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if I've earned sex. What matters is who I'll be because of receiving it.
And that's part of the asking effectively, I'm imagining, yeah.
Yeah, and so to directly answer your question about why men need sex, which is that who they'll be afterwards, most women have been imprinted by teenage boys, and their impression is that sex is purely physical. And I've met couples, I've worked with couples in their 50s and 60s, where the woman still thought that sex was just a physical need of his. And, what do you need me for? Just handle that yourself. Like, seriously, they really thought that. They didn't know that, yes, in young men, the physical need for sex created by such high levels of testosterone is more than any woman can imagine. And it's something, men, for you to know that urgent, completely distracting need for sex, like being hungry and you can't think about anything else till you eat. Most women only experience that when they're ovulating. And that means 30 hours every 4 weeks. Whereas a young man could experience that every 5 hours.
Yeah.
He could have sex and 5 hours later be just as distracted by the need to have sex.
Yeah. I've heard so many men talk about that too, and how painful that was to not, like you were saying, to not know that is normal, to not have that normalized, and then grow up thinking, because we have these imprints from when we are teenagers and when we first start having sexual feelings and we first start having sex, and then to grow up with thinking that is this thing that's wrong or something bad,
Yes, like, oh, you're such a horn dog, right? The things that people say, and you're oversexed, and can't you think about anything else besides sex? Well, actually, no, I can't. I'm actually built to have sex and populate the world. That's what my hormones are communicating. So yes, and then it is affected, right? Their whole lives, men's sex drive is affected by their testosterone levels. And there are things that they can do to affect their testosterone levels, to make it higher or lower if they want to. But but it's something worth understanding and worth honoring. And I think John Gray's done some really great work in this area. So I would just send people to him about that. He's fascinated by testosterone and oxytocin. And so if you want to know how to build your testosterone or to assuage your testosterone, then that's a good place to go. But one of the most important things that I learned from John Gray, that women don't know, women are afraid of testosterone, and you know that because you've done my workshops, and a lot of what we do has women get over the fear of testosterone. But what women don't know is that it's actually the lack of testosterone that makes grumpy men. And yeah, it's okay. So why men need sex? I'm actually going to answer this question. So physically men need sex to relieve a pressure that is building and building and building. And it may build, it takes 6 hours before the need for sex is distracting, like getting hungry again. It could take 3 weeks for it to get to that level. My husband will be 65 in a couple weeks. It takes about 5 days for him to get to the level where he is weird from lack of sex.
Well, and I imagine because he's with you, I know that he's conscious of this, but for men who aren't necessarily conscious of this, have you seen that they can be driven to do other things or not even recognize it? You know what I mean? That's that might be a side note.
Yeah, I haven't talked to them about not recognizing it. I have met men, wow, it makes me tear up to think about it. I have met men who have endured sexless marriages for more than a decade.
Yeah.
Like literally just gone without, try going without eating for 10 years. Right?
Yeah, I've worked
and
men like
then be in love with the person who and then try to be in love with the person who refuses to feed you. Yeah. It's not going to work out. So one point is that I just would encourage men to start to see, how often do you actually need to have sex just to stay out of the negative. I want to go into the positive, but just to stay out of the negative of it being distracting, of it being difficult to think about other things, right? Yeah. From being fidgety and off balance, right? So how many hours or days before the lack of sex is going to have you be what we would call upset, off balance, or unwell? So in the negative. Okay, so that's one thing to pay attention to. As you're saying this,
I also just want to admit that I feel this too as a woman. So not to take away or, make it, not to take away from this, but I also just want to say that there is some of this in a woman's psyche too. So for whatever part of you as a man listening, feels alone in this, there is some part of, I think, many women who, where we feel some of this too. And I think I'm just saying that to have that be a bridge, right? Like as you're talking more about this, that there doesn't have to be such separation or aloneness in this.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. So that's one thing to look at. So what is the physical/mental need to stay out of the distracted and off balance area? Okay? Yeah. And then there's the other side that you could look at, the benefits. Who are you afterwards? And some of the words that men have used, because I encourage them to talk about this in front of their partners, shocked the heck out of their partners. The women in their lives had no idea. Well, one of the strongest words, which is of course a huge thing for women, is connection. And what men have talked about, and this has actually been measured hormonally, is the spending of oxytocin that happens for men and women with sex, which is the bonding hormone. But it's the feeling of being connected. And what most women don't know is how it's like a ripple effect on a lake. So if you think of his partner is the person that sex has him feel connected, right? And this is where men and women get in trouble, because women need to feel connected in order to want to have sex,
right.
and men have sex in order to feel connected.
Right.
Right? So like a classic male-female interaction is, honey, let's have sex. Okay, but I need to feel connected first. Okay, so I should put it in then. No, honey, I need to feel connected first. Well, yeah, so we should do it, right? So cut out the foreplay. No, honey, I can't have sex without feeling connected to you. So I should put it in.
Right.
We don't know that that's what has him feel connected. Literally, we're connected now. We're plugged in. We're connected.
We are, literally plugged in, connected.
Yes, and so, but this ripple effect, what men have expressed is that it starts with her, and then it extends out into the world. So he feels connected to her, then he feels connected to his environment, his family, connected to the people at work, connected to strangers.
Yeah.
That it,
So
I'll never forget the look. Yes, the look on this woman's face as her husband had described this to her. He's like, having sex with you connects me to the world. What?
Well, and I'm curious too, because we're talking about men who, likely in some ways this is more applicable, the asking effectively part. I don't want to say it's more applicable, but I would imagine in some ways it's easier and in some ways it's more challenging to do with someone you're in a relationship with. And I'm curious if there's anything you have for men who are out there and single and starting to have these conversations with women who they may not know as well. Does the same thing apply?
Actually, it's kind of the reverse. And it's another thing that women don't know about men. And that's that the more emotionally attached a man is to a woman, the harder it is for him to ask for sex. Because her no, which he'll use the word rejection, her rejection is devastating.
Yeah.
It has him feel unappreciated, unloved, unsupported, not cared about. And especially if he's like, but look at everything I'm providing for you. Don't I at least deserve to have sex? Like, I did everything I'm supposed to do as a man, as a husband, as a boyfriend. I was good, and I don't get to have sex. Like it's so hard for them to ask. And so what happens in relationships is men are looking for the signs that she wants to have sex before they'll even indicate that they want to have sex. They'll actually keep covering it up until she, shows up in the lingerie, and then he's like, hallelujah, right? Because that's, to him, that's this big green light. She wants it, right? And so men actually have, they have less invested in early parts of a relationship, and so they're actually more bold about asking for sex, which doesn't make them more effective. It has them be kind of like too casual,
or
or just not actually committing to articulating, the why of it, or causing her to feel safe, which is one of the biggest things men don't know about women, is that for women, unless they're really masculine, a woman is really masculine, danger is sexy. For women who aren't really masculine, for most women, when I've asked women what do they think is romantic and what makes them feel safe, the answer is the same. Safe,
safety is
what makes them feel safe is romantic. Yes. So like crossing the street. If you're crossing the street and you depending on how well you know her, right? If you sort of put your hand under her elbow, like you're, going to guide her and keep her out of trouble. Or if you know her better, you put your hand in the small of her back as you're crossing the street. So sexy, so romantic, all about being protected and safe. It's like, okay, there's foreplay. You get to the other side of the street, let's just do it.
Yeah, I love that too, and for you as a man to remember, right, that there's this idea that if you are a safe man, that you're not a sexy man, and it's not that way for women. But what I do see is that men can tend to downplay their sexuality to try to be safe, as opposed to bringing their full sexuality and also bringing their heart and their care in the ways that you're talking about. And that, I think, is where the sexiness is amplified.
What you said is so important, because I have seen men know that they kind of freak women out. and so they tone themselves down to try to be more appealing to women.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work, because women respond to strength. Strength is sexy. Instinctively, we are looking for powerful providers and protectors, but powerful providers and protectors that make us feel provided for and protected. So what you said is exactly right. You have to be unwilling to tone yourself down to make a woman feel safe. You got to be yourself and then reach out and do what makes her feel safe. This is a whole section in our Understanding Women workshop. But it's really, it has to do with women feel safe when they feel that someone's interested in them. They feel safe when someone's paying attention. I know a man who was so effective at managing women. He was the president of our company. And all he did was pay attention and remember. So he talked to them once a week, and he would ask them about the thing that was going on the week before. So how did that go with your son at school? Right? How was that meeting? So how did you enjoy your ski trip? Just for a woman, for a man to remember what was happening with her the last time he saw her, it makes us feel like you're paying enough attention that the tiger won't be able to drag me off without you noticing.
Yeah.
So it makes us feel safe, and we get turned on.
Yeah. I love that.
Wow, this, powerful man's paying attention. He's protecting me. I want to have sex with him. So yeah, do not tone yourself down. Please don't tone yourself down. Women need, this is a whole, you're most familiar with this part of my work, right? Empowering women to be with powerful men and not see testosterone as a threat, right? So connection, we were talking about why men need sex. Connection is one of the things, right? Sex makes men happy.
Yeah.
And nobody pays enough attention to men being happy. Right? Women are always...
Oh, that's so true.
That's so true. Men are always paying attention to women being happy. They're compelled to do that, right? Men don't pay enough attention to them being happy. And the thing to know, which has a sad side effect in our culture, is that power and happiness go together. So when a man... so sex has him feel happy, and it has him have a surge of power and a surge of well-being. And his mental thought processes, his ability to communicate, to solve problems, to cooperate, to be cheerful, to be kind and compassionate, all these qualities that we want in men that we think will come by feminizing them, right? By having them have less testosterone and toning themselves down and be more like a girl. No, all those qualities come from them having enough sex.
Yes. Okay, so this is amazing. I feel like we could keep talking about this for days or weeks, but I would love to have you highlight the pieces around asking effectively. Any more pieces? I know you said talking about connection is one of them, and how else can men really ask effectively to get what they want and need?
Okay, so this is one of my passions. We call it a great ask, and having a great ask is one of the most empowering things a human being can do. And there's 4 elements of a great ask. And if you can't remember these, it's going to sound really funny, but it's in this issue of Brides magazine on page 473. I just started a series this year for Brides magazine, and in the first one we teach a great ask. And it's awesome, right? So in there's 4 elements. The first element is a simple statement of what you need. Okay, I need sex, right? The second element is a description of what it looks like. And this is one that both men and women are likely to skip because we think it's obvious.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so for example, you could say I need sex, and a woman will make up what that means. It means, oh, you're going to keep me up until I have an orgasm, right? I can't go to sleep until I have an orgasm to validate your ego. No, I'm too tired to have sex, right? So you actually have to say what it looks like and what it looks like in that moment because, there's drive-by sex, there's smorgasbord sex, there's bring snacks for 8 hours sex, right? There's all these kinds of sex. So you have to say, I need sex and what that would look like. I just need 7 minutes of your time. Or I'd like to spend the next hour making your body feel pleasure it didn't know it could.
Right? That's a good one.
That's a good one, don't you think? I'm always teaching men how to enroll women in sex because I want them to have more sex. So what would that look like? And what would that look like in this particular incident, right? And then the third element is what that would provide.
Uh-huh.
And this is another part. What it looks like can be very enrolling, and also what it would provide. I get to reconnect with you. I would feel close to you again, and it would ease the stress that I'm feeling about my job. And I'm pretty sure I'd be happy on the other side because I remember always being happy on the other side of having sex. And so it's just these are simple statements. This doesn't have to take a long time, right? So simple statement of need, what it would look like in this incident, and what it would provide. And then the fourth thing, which very likely to get dropped out as well, it's the question, what do you need to give me what I'm asking for?
I like that. That's powerful.
Oh, we call it the partnership question. What do you need to give me what I'm asking for? And then the fifth element, which is actually good these can go in any order, and it's good to have it even after each element. The fifth element is releasing pressure.
Uh-huh.
So nobody responds well to pressure. So it can't be, I need sex. What it would look like is sometime in the next 4 minutes, we'd tear off your clothes, and you'd let me have at you for 12 minutes. And what it provided is I would be sane again, and I'd probably be happy, and I wouldn't feel so stressed, and I'd feel connected with you again. What do you need to give me what I'm asking for? Huh? What do you need? What do you need?
Right. Pressure.
Yes. She's going to go, So the release of pressure is critical, right? Yeah. So what do you? Is there anything you need to give me what I'm asking for? And then relax, lean back, breathe. Say, I'm going to give you a minute to think about it. Walk away if you have to, right? And the thing you have to do in that moment is let go of all your preconceptions of what the right answer is. Because whether you're a man or a woman asking this of a man or a woman, the likelihood of them saying what you think they will is so small. Greg has never said what I thought he would. Ever. we're going to have our 22nd wedding anniversary next month. He's never answered that question the way I thought he would, ever.
Interesting.
So, yeah, so you just have to relax. She might say, I need to finish the dishes, or I need to take a shower, or I need you to take a shower. Like,
I love that it gives each
I
person a chance to say what they need and what they want.
I need to put my son to bed. I need to make sure my dad's okay. I got to call my dad first. Like things that are they're going to be things that are on her mind.
Yes.
And a lot of people know this these days. So the amygdala, which is the worry center of the brain, much bigger in women and twice as active. And it prevents us from enjoying sex. So a woman will want to eliminate distractions before having sex.
Yes.
Yes, which is why I teach husbands, the best way to get your wife in bed is make the bed.
Do the dishes and make the bed.
Yeah, because a woman will not want to be in the same room as an unmade bed. And so if you make the bed, then she'll probably go in there and be in there and read a book in there, and then she's right, and then she's that much closer to getting her in bed. She's already there.
Yes. Okay. Well, we are almost at the end of our time, and I feel like we could keep going on this forever. And I'm so grateful for your wisdom and for the dedication that you have to actually understanding men to help them get what they want, instead of, there's something so powerful in all these things I hear you saying, that you've done the research, you've talked to men, you understand men's psyches, and you've done the same thing with women. And that really is, like I said in the beginning, it feels like you've created this guidebook or owner's manual for how we can actually, even know what we want and need, and then communicate about what we want and need. And it is so powerful. So, if you are a man who has been struggling, I highly recommend Alison's courses and home courses and in-person courses. Such powerful information. Anything that you want to wrap up on this piece before I have another final question for you?
Well, does your final question involve telling them the process to use shame to recover honor?
Yes, the final question involves the process.
Okay, good, because I have to do that.
Good. Okay.
The other thing I would recommend, so I wrote a book to transform the way women relate to men, and it's called The Queen's Code. And I recommend it to you men. And because it will help you understand what you're dealing with.
Yes.
It'll help you understand women and what's going on with them. And the Queen's Code, like Keys to the Kingdom, is fiction. And it's, because I think people learn better through a story, through other people's eyes. And the Queen's Code is from the point of view of 4 different men and 4 different women. And the 5th chapter of the Queen's Code, if you just want to forget all the rest and go to it, the 5th chapter it's called From Pumpkin Hours to Desserts, and it's about delicious sexual partnerships. And what's the information you need to exchange, and what do you need to know about yourself and your partner to have this all work out in the long run, and it helps it work out from the very beginning. But I would encourage men to read the whole thing, and it'll also help you to understand why women emasculate men and the fear that is behind our emasculating of men. And so if you can connect with being strong and safe, then you'll stop triggering that in most women.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Okay, so let's give them the process for, I think you said, right, for using shame to restore their power.
Yes.
Anything else you want to highlight about this process?
Well, first I want to say it's really, really simple and extremely effective. And you can do it on your own. You definitely can do it on your own, and it's really powerful to do with another man, and that's not normal for men to reach out to each other like that. Yeah. We have this process in a Hero's Challenge, and we have recovered men from the most horrible things that they were ashamed of, like 30 and 40 years into the past. Right. Things that had them for the last 40 years think they didn't deserve to be alive. Wow. And yeah, so it can be used on little things and big things, and nothing's too little, nothing's too big. And like I said in the beginning part of the call, in the deep end, the place to start with is the areas where you feel shame. And you actually want to use the shame to find your way back to yourself. And the way that you do it, it's just really few simple steps, okay? Great. The first is to understand that only honorable people feel shame. So it's if you don't grant that, then this isn't possible. Okay, so you have to start with only honorable people feel shame. Dishonorable people have no shame. They don't feel bad about anything. So it's your own standards, your own honor that's causing the shame in the first place. So the thing to do is actually to own it. So if you were going to do this as a written process, you would write and then you'd fill in the blank. I harmed, I hurt, I dishonored, I disrespected, right? Those are the words that tend to show up. I harmed, I hurt, I dishonored, I disrespected. And the name of the person, when I. And it's not a long story. It's a simple sentence. When I told her what she wanted to hear so she'd have sex with me. When I pretended to like her more than I really did so she'd have sex with me. In this area of things that men feel shame about, right, in sexuality. So, but you can apply this to any area of your life, by the way. So I hurt, I harmed, I disrespected, I dishonored so-and-so when I. And don't go the because. If you put a because in, now you're off in the story and it's not going to work. Just when I did this. Okay? Then the second step is I own that. Now, you can do this in writing. I own that. If you want to play with right and left hand, you can write I hurt this person or harm this person when with your dominant hand. I own that with the opposite hand. It'll give you access to a different part of yourself. When we do this in a process between two people, the man would say, or the woman would say, I hurt or I harmed this person when I did this. And the other person would say, thank you for owning that. Okay? Then the next part is to forgive yourself. Now, this is both simple and tricky. It's simple because you just do it. I forgive myself. I own it, and I forgive myself. The tricky part is the shame will make you think you don't deserve to forgive yourself. That someone who did that, how you pay for having done whatever you did, is by never forgiving yourself. Right. This is a way that men are extraordinarily accountable, and women have no idea about it, that how they pay for what they are ashamed of is by never forgiving themselves. That's how they punish themselves. But this is the thing that I want you men to know. There's a payoff to not forgiving yourself. There's a benefit. And the benefit is you don't ever have to risk failing again. By never forgiving yourself, you will avoid that area for the rest of your life. You literally have left that playground. And a definition I heard of forgive many years ago was to give as before. And the truth is in the areas where we feel shame, we've taken ourselves out of that area of life and we no longer give ourselves. We don't give ourselves. You're not giving your love. You're not giving your play. You're not giving your interest. You're not giving your attention. You're not giving the gift of your sexuality. Men's sexuality is what makes women feel beautiful and desired. We need your sexuality to connect ourselves with our beauty and our desirability. We stop feeling desirable when you don't want us anymore, when you don't show us that you want us. We start dragging our bodies around. It's terrible.
Yeah.
So you forgive yourself, not because you deserve to be forgiven. You're forgiving yourself because that's going to put you back in life. That's you taking a risk by forgiving yourself. Now, after that part, so I forgive myself, right? You can write it with one hand or the other. I own that, and I forgive myself. So you can write it down, or you can say it to another person, a man or a woman, and I forgive myself. If a man doesn't say it, you can prompt him. Do you forgive yourself? Yes, I forgive myself. Now this extraordinary thing happens, and this is how you know you're in the area of human spirit. It's so cool. When you forgive yourself, what opens up is a space. And it's a space that is begging for you to commit, which is the natural state of men. Men are naturally committal. So when you forgive yourself, all of a sudden it'll just be asking you to put yourself back in that game with a new commitment. And the really important thing, and it's so beautiful to watch, don't decide ahead of time what you're going to commit to. Because deciding ahead of time is just your mind still reacting to the shame and trying to make up for it.
Yeah.
Don't decide ahead of time. Forgive yourself. Men, I hope you're doing this right now. Do this right now. Forgive yourself. I own that and I forgive myself. Yeah. And then notice the space. And on your piece of paper and in a conversation, finish the sentence. And I commit to. And see what shows up. Because by not anticipating ahead of time, what'll show up is an expression of yourself. Your unique spirit will show up because the forgiveness, the owning and the forgiveness, you just reconnect to your own soul.
Yeah.
And then that commitment is an expression of your soul. It's the gift you are on the planet.
So powerful.
May I share something?
Yeah, please.
We started our workshops 20 years ago. We're celebrating our 20th anniversary at the end of the month.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. For the first 18 years of our company, I was not a good chief executive officer. I was not good. I wasn't good at it. And I didn't do what it took to be good at it. I just didn't want to. And I thought everybody else could do the job. And 2 years ago, my company was a wreck. And I sat down with myself with this process. And I wrote out the names of all the people and all the groups that I had hurt by my unwillingness, by my laziness, by my blindness, by my, all the people that I'd hurt by everything that went into me being a not good CEO. And I had gotten to the point, I was so ashamed of the kind of CEO I'd been that, and as a CEO, I'm masculine, right? It's a masculine role.
Yeah, it is
I'd gotten to the point where I felt like I didn't deserve to be supported at all. And by at all, I mean not even by God. Like God shouldn't even support me. I'm doing God's work and God should not support me because I'm doing a crappy job of it.
Wow.
And I sat down and I wrote this all out. I harmed this person and that person by this and by that and this group of people and this group of people by this and by that, right? And then I had this whole long list and I just did it in one thing. I wrote down all the buys and then one big I own it.
Right, I own that. Then I forgive myself.
I own that. I forgive myself, and I commit to. And honestly, this is like a miraculous turnaround. Like we should be like written up by Harvard Business School in the turnaround of a company.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean this year I own that I have been the CEO, and I have paid attention to things that CEOs should pay attention to, and my company is healthy, my company is strong, and we get to fulfill our mission of ensuring that our education is available to all future generations. And we almost lost that opportunity. So I'm just sharing this. I just want to share it because it's so simple, and nothing's too little or nothing's too big to be worth using this process on. And I
want to thank you again for not only teaching this, but being willing to walk your talk and doing it, and doing it and practicing it, and therefore even knowing and having even more of an ability to actually understand the process and work with people, but also for being willing to do it yourself and take that risk and really live it. So beautiful. Thank you so much, Alison. Thank you for being here. And I'm feeling moved to say, is there any last kind of wish that you have for the men who are listening?
Thank you. Okay, so gentlemen, I wish for you to know that Shana and I are not the only women on the planet who love you and adore you and think that you're amazing. And we're both committed to causing other women to get over expecting you to be a woman and making you wrong for not acting like a woman and taking it personally when you don't act like a woman. We both are working on that. And meanwhile, please do not buy into our culture's, can I say bullshit?
Yes.
Okay. I just did.
Yep.
Please. One of my greatest sorrows is when a man emasculates himself. Yeah. Do not buy into what our culture says about who you are. You are magnificent. And you are, in fact, God's gift to women.
So true. So true. Take that in. Take it to heart. Wherever you are, take it with you. Thank you so much, Alison.
I'm so glad you joined us for today's episode of Man Alive. I hope you enjoyed our conversation and it gave you something to consider and explore in your life. If you like what you heard, I'd be so grateful for you to subscribe and write a quick review that helps men like you find us. And again, head over to shanajamescoaching.com/quiz or text the word ALIVE, ALIVE, to 44144 to get a sense of how you can become a better lover and leader. You'll start to see how you can be both more respected and desired in your unique and genuine way. If you don't feel as confident or as excited about life or love as you'd like to be, this quiz is a really great starting point and will guide you toward a more passionate love life and a more inspiring and successful career. So again, text ALIVE, ALIVE, to 44144 or head over to shanajamescoaching.com/quiz. Join us each week for a new episode of Man Alive.